Find a place to sleep. Many have sailed this far into the ocean sea.
Take the word of the gospel to all of the Indies. To Cathay. To India, to the unknown Cipango. To do as our Lord bid his apostles to do. Go into all of the world and preach my word. We must have our best scholars and priests examine it. I thank you for coming, Senor Colon.
Greetings of the day to everyone. I, Pratham Meena, from the Department of History, welcome you all to this video. In the next few minutes, we shall be elaborating on our understanding of the first voyage of Christopher Columbus that led to the discovery of America.
Rewards do you expect, Senor Colon?
I am to be titled Admiral of the Ocean Sea and Viceroy of all islands and continents discovered or conquered through my efforts. These offices and the title Don Cristobal Colon shall pass to my heirs and successors forever. In addition,
There is more.
a tenth of all goods acquired from these dominions will belong to me, free of taxation.
Until now, I questioned your mathematics, Senor Colon, but I see that was a mistake.
A man of many traits, Christopher Columbus was blessed with a fine appearance, qualities, and a wealth of ancestry from the palatial family of Lombardy. He had been on many voyages in the Mediterranean and got well versed in the skills of navigation. To fare well, Columbus settled in Lisbon, Portugal, where he continued to support his father financially. Stories suggest that Columbus came to know about the Indian islands through his friend who was on a voyage from Spain to Britain. Unfortunately, his voyage got discouraged and he ended up strangled in one of these Indian islands, which was known as Hesperides in the accounts of Sobosus, Solinus, Pliny, and Isidore in the West. Well, to talk about his discovery of the Indies, Columbus added weight or attested weight to his discovery by citing three main reasons. The first reason being the flow of fresh water in the place, which he took as a support of the nature. The second reason lying in the matching of description of the sixth continent as delivered by Saint Ambrose in his Hexameron, which can be seen as a religious backing to his discovery, and the final evidence that Columbus puts up in his letters is the affirmations that he received from the local inhabitants of the place, the natives. For Columbus, the Indian islands were an earthly paradise, which cannot be accessed without the will of the God.
Warm greetings to everyone. I, Rimjhim Deo, from the Department of History, shall be proceeding further to the course of the journey of Columbus' first voyage. Christopher Columbus sailed west from Europe, crossing the Atlantic in 1492 to find his way to India, and also the legendary hoards of gold and spices that were spread to be found in the east. As we know that Columbus did not reach India, but the world he encountered opened Europe to new kind of wealth. The flagship was Santa Maria, a carrack of approximately 120 tons, owned by Juan de la Cosa, an experienced Biscayan navigator and cartographer, at the disposal of Columbus. In addition, the ships Nina and Pinta, each approximately 50 tons, were under the command of two experienced sailors, brothers Martin Alonso and Vicente Yanis of the Pinzon family. Santa Maria had more than 60 men, while the rest rode in the two caravels. If one refers to his letters, like any voyager patronized by the crown, Columbus begins with gratitude expressed for the crown whose resources supplemented him in completing the voyage from the Canary Islands to the Caribbean, a feat he proudly proclaimed to have achieved from his 33-day voyage. Coming to the voyage on August 2nd, 1492, a small fleet left Palos Harbor at dawn. The trade winds pushed the three ships westward, and Columbus carefully measured the course every day to calculate the longitude of the lands he encountered, the strong sign of land, and so many words of one species helped Columbus to identify that they were not straying or lost, as is famously quoted that not all those who wander are lost. Despite encouragement from Columbus and even signs of pointing to a landing after 1 month of navigation, the crew remained distraught and unhappy. On the night of 11th of October, a fire was seen in the distance, and the next day they finally saw a small island, quite low and covered with large vegetation. Columbus was sure that he had reached, as he predicted, the outpost of Asian continent. However, what was unexpected was the appearance and the behavior of the natives they met on the beach. They were naked, including women, fairly fair-skinned, carried rudimentary weapons, and very simple and good, and also they were friendly and helpful. The island they reached was a small island of Lucayos, which in the Indian language was called Guanahani.
As they set foot on the island, immediately the indigenous people appeared. Acknowledging their attendance, Columbus raised the royal standard and the captains carried 2 banners, which were owned by the admiral on all his ships. On both the sides of the cross was a crown surmounted by the letters F and Y for Ferdinand and Isabella. The admiral, as Columbus often likes to be referred, summoned the 2 captains and others who had landed, and Rodrigo Escobedo, the recorder of the whole fleet, and Rodrigo Sanchez de Segovia, and demanded that they should bear faithful witness that he had taken possession of the island, which he did, for his sovereigns and masters, the king and the queen. And he then called the island San Salvador. In his letters, Columbus can also be seen occupied with the idea of finding resemblances of towns and cities of Europe in his newly discovered islands of Indies. However, he fails to do so, and all that he finds are scattered villages in the nearby areas. Touching the area of geography, Columbus also appreciates the freshly flowing waters, the long-running harbors, the tall hills that often dwarf the Spanish counterparts of Tenerife. Touching the flora and fauna of the place, Columbus is also appreciative of the tall vegetation, of the evergreen fruit-bearing trees and various varieties of palms and pines. And he also seems to be able to notice the voice of nightingale wherever he went, along with many other birds in his vicinity.
Each day we understand better what the native Indians say as theirs, so that very often we are intelligible to each other. My greeting to you, I am Suhag Mojumder from Department of History. This beautiful quote of Columbus describes the scene of that Columbus have his very fair share of warm reception. The Cacique chief of nearby village on Hispaniola paid an official visit to Columbus' ship. He was treated with a great ceremony which carried on by his attendants. Upon boarding, the Cacique chief was politely sat next to the Columbus and shared food and drink with his men in ritualistic manner. Columbus gave him gifts like cushion, beads, perfume, and a small iron sword which delighted him.
Greetings everyone, myself Adrita Shib and I am pursuing Masters in History from Ramjas College, University of Delhi. So today I'll be specifically focusing on the description of the local inhabitants by Christopher Columbus. So regarding inhabitants, he was of the view that while most of the people lived naked, some of them, especially women, they often used woven leaves to cover the intimate parts of their body. Apart from that, he believed that people there were generally very timid natured and they were quite naive and were afraid of the newcomers, especially Christopher Columbus and his crewmen. So much so that a father often did not wait for his son whenever they were getting approached by Columbus. Upon establishing a friendly relationship with the local inhabitants, he found out that they did not have the concept of private ownership of property, since they were ready to share almost everything that they were being asked. Apart from that, Columbus also stressed emphasis on the nature of the local inhabitants. He believed that he also intends to correct the readers on the assumption of the local people being stupid by mentioning that they were extremely proficient in seafaring skills and also in understanding the gestures of Columbus despite having very poor communication skills. Once again, he also mentions about his religious motive towards the voyage, and he notices that there was absolutely no trace of idolatry among the local inhabitants, and gave him a chance to propagate the principles of Christianity to this new land. The uniformity in appearance and customs of the local people, according to Christopher Columbus, was quite conducive for the propagation of Christianity, because of which they often shared certain European articles which were quite popular among the local inhabitants to allure them so that they might convert themselves into Christianity. On notes of appearance, he expresses his utter astonishment because despite living nearly 20 to 21 degrees away from the equator, these people were not Negroids.
Adding more to his list of establishments, he mentions in his letters about his establishment of Villa de Navidad, a town renamed in Hispaniola, where a fortified settlement overlooks the gold mining, which he believes would be suitable for mainland communication. While Columbus states his cordial relationship with the local king, he seemingly displays Spanish superiority of arms and resources by elaborating on the weakness of the locals if conflict arises. The people of these islands, in language and manners, were more civilized and governed and more intelligent because they were better able to bargain for the cotton and other trifles that they had brought with them. These people were more friendly, and women wore a small piece of cotton in front which only hid their private parts. While explaining the geography of the island, Columbus explains that the island is very green, flat and fertile, which makes it suitable for growing Indian corn and other crops throughout the year. He also describes that these people have no religion and have a ready understanding, which makes it easy to get them quickly Christianized.
Riches don't make a man rich, they only make him busier. And the quote aptly describes the scenario of Columbus. In his letter, he distributes the island of Cuba and Hispaniola on its east. He stated that the island of Cuba to be bigger than England and Scotland combined, while island of Hispaniola is bigger in circumference than Spain. He finds gold mine and land far superior and suitable for urban establishment. Throughout, Columbus frequently misinterpreted the sign and indication made by native people. But he noticed some natives wore small golden ornament on their noses. The Tortuguese Indians and the Hispaniola chiefs both indicate to Columbus that there was even more gold on Tortuga than Hispaniola, and vastly even more gold in the island of Babique. The spurred Columbus frequently desired to continue explore eastward to search of great riches.
Christopher Columbus received a joyous welcome from the people of Paris, largely because of the fact that many of the inhabitants of that town were excited because many of the crewmen of Christopher Columbus belonged to their town. Also, Columbus's former partner, Martin Alfonso Pinzon, he went to Galicia and then independently tried to go to Barcelona to disclose the news to the Spanish monarchs. But eventually it was rejected because the Spanish monarchs were of the view that they could not see him until Columbus came himself. Dejected by this rejection, he eventually died, and after that Columbus went to Seville by land before returning to Barcelona in mid-April. And thereupon he was greeted with great respect and honor by the Spanish monarchs and also by the people because of the exotic goods that he brought with himself. The Spanish monarchs treated him with great respect and also seated him beside them under a golden canopy, thus giving him the status of a noble lord.
There, Your Highness.
Hence, these were the recollections that Columbus made on his ship on a journey that lasted 33 days and then 28 days on his way back to Europe, with his first landing in the port of Lisbon, Portugal. The first voyage to the Americas that was made with great faith and minimal technology gave Europe a new confidence and then set the stage for a second voyage where he discovered more and reached Hispaniola. There Columbus learned that the Taino natives destroyed the valley of La Navidad. This action triggered native resistance and European retaliation, culminating in the conquest of Hispaniola. In the years 1498 to 1500 and 1502 to 1504, Columbus made 2 more transatlantic voyages. Generally, he has traveled mostly to the Caribbean islands, including Bahamas, Cuba, Santo Domingo, and Jamaica, and on 2 recent voyages to the coast of Eastern Central America and Northern South America. Columbus could not make another Atlantic voyage due to the death of Queen Isabella. Columbus died in Valladolid in Spain on 20th May 1506. Christopher Columbus belonged to an age that was past, and yet he became a sign and symbol of the new era that was of hope, glory, and achievements. His medieval faith forced him to a modern solution, that is expansion, and he became a humble yet proud instrument of European regeneration. His expeditions that once were celebrated as explorations are now recognized for their devastating impact on Native Americans. However, some American cities and regions today recognize this complex legacy by celebrating both Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. Yet his skills as a navigator are undisputed and his voyages remain remarkable feats of maritime exploration. Hence, I would like to end by quoting Columbus, who said, "Nothing that results in human progress is achieved with unanimous consent. Those that are enlightened before the others are condemned to pursue that light despite the others." Thank you.